This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
All right, so just a warning to start off this podcast, like right out of the gate. We should have kept track, Stroz, of how many times we swear, because we don't generally do it. I think in the history of this podcast, we've probably sworn 5 or 6 times. I just want to warn anybody listening who's anti-swear word, we're probably going to swear 5 or 6 times today.
Did you have your breaking point? Did you have your breaking point 2 weeks after I had mine?
So here's what I would say. I don't know that I had my breaking point, but I swear a lot in normal conversation. And I usually dial it back for stuff like this. And that just feels like in this situation, if I had to dial back my swearing, it would be inauthentic. Seriously. That's how I felt. I wouldn't call it a breaking point because I said it to you before we started recording. Games that make me angry, I have an appreciation for those still because they make me feel something. Thankfully, I have a lot to say about the Packers game, which again, today we're going to be talking about a loss to the Cardinals and a loss to the Packers. Packers game was the first one, a loss 27-20 at home. Then they went to Arizona, lost 38-10 against the Ryan Lindley-led Cardinals.
Hey, when we get to that game, I pulled up some stats on that guy.
He threw for 75% of his career yards in this game with a whopping 104. Like, fuck. This game was brutal. But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. There's a lot to be said about the Packers game. They went into Green Bay in quite the snowstorm, lost 27-20. And I guess where I want to start with this was really a tale of two halves, which is something we've seen a lot by the Lions, but this was backwards. I thought, despite going in the half only up by 4, I thought they were overwhelmingly, like they dominated the Packers in the first half, aside from 2 plays. A Matthew Stafford unforced fumble and a bad interception. Aside from those 2 plays, the Lions were so far and away the better team in the first half.
The only problem with those 2 plays were they both led to touchdowns, and those were the only points Green Bay scored in that first half. Detroit controlled the ball for 22 of the first 30 minutes in this game.
One did lead to a field goal. It did lead to all their points, but they only had 10 points at the half.
It was absolutely nuts how well Detroit played in this first half, only to see it all undone by the second half. It was crazy. In my notes, it really feels like Detroit has Green Bay's number, but it always seems to come down to 1 or 2 plays that let the game slip away. And that's how I feel leading up to this point, because I think it's once Jim Caldwell takes over, Detroit starts to regularly beat Green Bay. They have no problem necessarily going into Green Bay, coming out with a win, and they have no problem taking care of home when Green Bay comes to town. Well, but leading up to this, it always felt like Detroit was on the cusp of beating Green Bay, and then it was always some stupid play or some bad turnover or something silly happened that forced them to lose a game.
You know what I thought watching this game is I bet if you looked at Aaron Rodgers' career stats against the Lions, they're pretty underwhelming. And he was in this one too. 14 of 24, 173 yards, no touchdowns. I'm not saying he's bad. And here's the thing. He's made game-changing plays against the Lions. You know, you think of the Hail Mary, of course. It's not that he's never made big plays. It's just his overall stats are just not that impressive. And he has been for a large part of his career, the whole team. So when he's not doing anything impressive, you don't expect the team to. But I just want to read through some of my first half notes because I'm telling you, I thought it was a tale of 2 halves. Second half, different story. But in the first half, I thought the Lions dominated. The first drive, the Lions came out incredibly impressive. It was 4 or 5 yards on every single play, through the air, on the ground. It didn't matter.
It was so efficient.
It was. Every play was a good play. It ended in a Matthew Stafford touchdown. And I don't know how many he had this year, and I'm having some minor computer problems. So if you have a chance, Stroz, can you look up how many rushing touchdowns Stafford had this year? Because it feels like this is at least 3 or 4. And I cannot believe I didn't notice this till today. Matthew Stafford is all about the LaDainian Tomlinson touchdown celebration. I think he does it every single time he scores. I don't know if that's followed through all the way to 2020, but I'm pretty sure through 2011 and 2012, every single time he scored a touchdown on the ground, he's done the LT celebration. If you don't remember that, it's the left hand on head, elbow sticking out, and then right arm extended flips the ball off. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He's done that on every single touchdown.
In this season, he had 4 touchdowns, which was his career high.
I think this was the last
season.
One. I think we've seen all 4, and he did it on all 4. Sorry, unimportant, just something I noticed.
No, I think that's a nice grab by you. I did notice it. I noticed it primarily in this game when he did score that last touchdown. I never really connected the 2 dots until you just said something, but you're right. Every time he scored a touchdown in this game, that's his touchdown celebration.
Well, what happened is I saw it and I went, he's done the same touchdown celebration every time. Like in my head, I was like, I didn't realize he had a touchdown celebration. And then I went, wait a second, that's LT. I also thought, and it's funny because I had some comments on this in the next game. It's pretty impressive the level that Matt Stafford and Chris Durham were able to play at, given, I know that they were college roommates, but given that this is their first chance playing together in the NFL, I thought it was pretty impressive the way they were on the same page. Chris Durham had a couple big plays, had a great one-handed grab, and this extends even into the following season, I believe. In fact, I believe it extends in the next couple of seasons. Chris Durham, not a good player, obviously. The man finished his career playing football in Italy. But Lions almost lucked out getting a guy who at least was on the same page with Stafford with such little time to work.
Yeah, I was really impressed by that as well. I thought it was crazy because if you think about it, Chris Durham essentially comes in this week. So he might have had 4 days to prepare for this game, maybe 5. And right from Jump Street, they seem like they're on the same page. Chris Durham, like you said, makes a great one-handed catch, falling backwards, falling down to the ground, just sticks his mid up in the air and pulls a ball in. And Chris Durham looks to be a very competent wide receiver in this game. He added something to this team. We've kind of talked about it as the season has unfolded. You really have Calvin Johnson, and then after that, all the other wide receivers are banged up. Everybody's on IR. There's nobody else here to really catch a football. Chris Durham comes in, and he looks like he adds at least a body who can go out there and catch a couple balls and provide another option for Matt Stafford. I was impressed by that as well.
Now, I thought the running game worked well, but it's funny when you look at the numbers. Nobody broke a run longer than 13 yards. Nobody averaged more than 4.1 per. I mean, I guess you had Mike Thomas with 2 carries for 25. But Joey Bell and Mikel Leshort, both very pedestrian. But I think ultimately what I saw, the reason it felt like they did fine is because it was always 4 or 5 yards. And here's the big thing. Throughout this rewatch, we have said, maybe the running game wasn't as bad as we remember, but the problem was they couldn't convert in key situations. They actually picked up several big third downs on the ground in this game. It just felt like in the first half, all of the offense was working. Now, second half, things changed a little bit, but they had everything working early in this one. Honestly, Stroz, if it's not for the fumble and the interception, I think they probably go into the half up at a bare minimum 17. And I think you're probably looking at 21. Instead, they only went up 4. And I think that mattered. Like, they didn't play well in the second half, but it felt like you could feel momentum shifting. The Lions had an opportunity to step on the throats of the Packers in the first half, and instead it just didn't ever get there.
No, I think you're right. I think everything you said there is accurate. I'm not sure what happens in the second half. I mean, obviously Green Bay makes some adjustments, but I don't know why Detroit comes out so flat. The one thing I did notice in the first half, now I thought the defense had Aaron Rodgers' number. All that being said, I thought they had trouble tackling running backs. I feel like the running backs
for Green
Bay,
but in the second half they certainly did.
I mean, I do not remember Alex Green. Alex Green had a really, really good day.
This is how little I remember Alex Green. I went, did Ahmad Green unretire for a little bit?
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Because I knew he was gone. And I was like, wait, did he have a comeback that I don't remember?
Hey,
but no,
I was on the same page with you. And they're like, Alex Green, again, picks up a first down. Or Alex Green runs through the Detroit line and grabs 5 yards. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Originally, I thought it was Ahmad Green. I had no clue.
Just for the record, Alex Green, 149 career carries.
It's funny as we do these games to see all these guys, just these pedestrian-ass guys, just guys that they go and they pick up off the street, have like career days against.
Oh, dude, he had 400 yards in his career, 70 of them today. Like, he I mean, yeah.
He had a fifth of his career total here.
It's very hard to believe that this wasn't a career day for him. Now, he didn't have a touchdown. How about this? I maybe have a flaw when we do these rewatches of going too deep into plays that aren't a big deal. Maybe the most incredible run play I've ever seen go for less than 10 yards. Late in this game, as the Packers are trying to run it out, DeJuan Harris, who also I don't have any idea who he is, he had 7 carries in this one for 31 yards and a touchdown. DeJuan Harris gets the ball in the backfield, slips, and by the way, it was very clear that conditions were bad. Rodgers slipped. DeJuan Harris had a slip. I think Stafford might have had a slip. Stafford had a fumble untouched. But DeJuan Harris falls on his ass in the backfield. When I say falls on his ass, I mean his whole fucking body was on the ground. All of it. And he picked up 7 yards. He picked up 7 yards after falling on his ass behind the line of scrimmage. And then the following play, he goes untouched to the end zone on a 14-yard carry. But the play before that, I have never seen a man. If you slip, it's hard to get 7 yards. Find me another run where someone is literally laying on their back and picks up 7 yards.
Yeah, field conditions definitely weren't good. But man, Detroit's ineptitude on trying to corral these running backs in this game was maddening because Aaron Rodgers was very pedestrian in this game. He was 14 of 24. He had a run for a touchdown where he scrambled and he was able to pick up 27 yards and score. But other than that, he had a very, very bad day for himself anyways, against Detroit at least. But these running backs, it felt like they were unstoppable. And, Matt Stafford did gift wrap a touchdown to Green Bay when the ball slipped out of his hands. But again, I think that goes more towards field conditions. Field conditions were, like you said, absolutely abysmal. I was really surprised, and I was looking for this when the second half started. I was looking to see if Matt Stafford ever put a glove on to come out in the second half, and he never did.
Yeah, and I will say, I thought he was bad in the second half. I thought in the first half he played really well, aside from those 2 plays. And those 2 plays, you can't take them away, but I thought the vast majority of the first half he played really well. I thought in the second half he was brutal. The run game kind of disappeared too. And I think that's also been a theme. It doesn't seem like it's very common. Generally speaking, when this Lions offense is working, it's all working. And when it's not, none of it's there. And in the second half, this team couldn't move the ball. They couldn't complete passes. I mean, the second half, the offense just wasn't there. And I thought, as you said, Aaron Rodgers had a pedestrian game. I thought the defense, while they started having trouble with the run, the defense didn't totally disappear. The defense let the Lions still have a chance to win this game, but the offense just could not get anything working.
Were you surprised at how much the Lions threw in this game? I mean, snowy conditions, the field is absolute crap. Matt Stafford does have that unforced fumble where he goes to drop back, the ball slips out of his hands. I don't know if his hands were cold. I don't know if it was just slippery because of all the snow, but they threw the ball 45 times.
My pushback would be that they ran it 32. They threw the ball 45 times because they ran 77 offensive plays. They dominated time of possession. They dominated snaps. I mean, on the flip side, the Lions outran in terms of carries the Packers by 7 and outthrew them by 21. That means the Lions had 28 more offensive plays in this game. So, I mean, could they have run the ball a little bit more? Maybe. But do you ever think it was the right call for the Lions to be 50-50 balanced? Because if you changed it much, they would have then.
No, I mean, I think you're right there. It's just with the conditions being what they were, I feel like you put your quarterback in kind of a bad spot, forcing him to drop back that many times. And I guess you're right in kind of working through this with you. If they do run it more, they are going to be a little bit more balanced. And this team was not built to be balanced. This team was built to throw the ball with a run game that kind of picked you apart when it was there. I don't think at any point this team has been created to lean heavily on a run game. It's always been based around Matt Stafford's arm. But seeing them throw 45 times to me is a little bit, it's just an odd number to see, especially with the conditions being what they were. But again, they did control time of possession. They had the ball the majority of this game. And if they do run it more, you're right, it's more of a balanced attack, which this team is I think uncomfortable being.
Now, I want to ask this question because theme of the first half of this season was they should have won more games. We agree they should have been at a bare minimum 6-2 through 8. I think that theme had mostly disappeared. They have become a bad football team. What did you think about this one? Is this a game they should have won?
I think so.
It's tough because they were bad in the second half, but they should have been up so big. So I think I lean towards saying they should have won this game, but not in the same way of that first half. Like the first half of the season, they were losing games they had no business losing. And I wouldn't go as far as to say that with this one.
I feel like this game got away. I feel like this game.
No, there's a better way to put it.
This is a game that they should have won, and this is a game that they completely dominated the first half, yet Green Bay was still involved and still really, really close, even though they shouldn't have been because of some silly turnovers. And then the second half opens up, and I think what you have is you have a defense that kept you in the game, but had some ill penalties, like Ndamukong Suh's penalty that allows Green Bay to convert and then score a touchdown by Aaron Rodgers. You know, he ends up getting a roughing the passer, which was totally unnecessary. I believe the pass that Aaron Rodgers threw, it missed by a mile, and then next thing you know, Ndamukong Suh is taking 2 steps and shoving Aaron Rodgers down on the ground for now a first down, a brand new set of downs for Green Bay. Green Bay comes back and they end up scoring a touchdown on it, and that puts them back in the driver's seat. And after that, Green Bay just kind of took control of this game, and that was at the very, very beginning of the third quarter. So I think this was a game that Detroit should have won, but they let it slip away because of some misplays and some bad plays.
Do you have anything important that you need to get to? I have one last note before we get to studs and duds, but it's very unimportant.
No, I think I've covered everything I need to cover.
There is one man we talk about more than warranted every single podcast, and I'm going to have to give my weekly Stephon Logan update.
Wait, hold on. Do I have a note on Stephon Logan? I don't know if it was in this game or if it's in the next game, but I got some notes on Logan. Hold on. Let me take a quick look. It's probably the
next game. It was bigger in the next game.
It is definitely the next game.
So there are 2 notes. One of them is entirely his fault. The other one is not. The first one, they had been running the ball well. This is in the first half, moving the ball. They brought him in and ran it up the middle. I can appreciate a team getting cute when things aren't working, but it bothers me, and it ended up being a 4-yard run, but it bothers me when that was a 3-yard run. It bothers me when a team decides to get cute while they're doing everything right, and their 2 running backs, Drake Bell and Mikel Lejeur, are both bowling balls. Why are we running Stephon Logan up the middle in a scenario where everything's going our way on offense? It bothered me. And then the other one, I have an issue with bad time management, and Stephon Logan has started to do this thing, and I vaguely remember this happening at the time, where he just doesn't catch a lot of punts. And I don't really understand it. Like, it's not to say the ball should never bounce outside of the 10-yard line, but it should be a rarity. And when they were still trying to form a comeback, it was right outside of the 2-minute warning. Stephon Logan lets a ball bounce at the 35 that he absolutely could have gotten to, and because he didn't, it blew out the 2-minute warning. If he waves a fair catch, catches the ball, lines the 2-minute warning, they're going to lose this game no matter what. But it's just basic stuff. Like, this man was asleep at the wheel. Like, and I'm sure that's what your notes are going to be about in the next game, but it's just, like, he wasn't terrible his whole time here. But as we got later and later into his time, it's like, why is this man returning the ball? At the absolute best, he's below average. And, like, they tried to justify it by putting him in on offense occasionally, and when they did it, it didn't work. Like, I don't ever remember him breaking a big play on offense. And it's, I don't know, it's not a major issue. So why it's minor. We talk about him more than necessary, but he just bothered me.
I don't know why you'd run him up the middle, and I agree with you. I wish we would have kept track of how many times he would let balls bounce instead of either fair catching them or trying to return them, because there were multiple times, especially in this game, there was at least, 2 or 3 where he probably should have made a play on the ball, but he doesn't. He doesn't return them. He just lets them bounce, and then what happens is Detroit ends up with bad field position, or like you brought up with the 2-minute warning. Time slips off the clock, and look, Detroit loses this game by 7, okay? And I'd have to go back to see what they had going on with their timeouts late in the fourth quarter, but that's an extra timeout. So that's basically you get one more play that you get to try to execute, and then there's a stoppage in time. And you've got arguably the best wide receiver in a generation. He can streak down the field, and you've already tossed it 45 times. What the hell's the difference if you throw it 46 and you go down the field? Or worst case scenario, you get a pass interference call and now you're that much closer.
I've always shared this. My belief is if you're within one onside kick, I'm treating it like the game's still in play. Once you get to a point where you need 2 onside kicks, it's just not going to happen. But if you're within 1 onside kick, I want to treat it like the game's still in play. Also, another unimportant note, but a fun one, Riley Reif with a 10-yard kick return in this game.
I think it's funny because I think Riley Reif has more return yards than Stephon Logan does.
He doesn't, but...
Are you sure?
Stephon Logan had 71 return yards.
He had 71 in this game? Oh, you're right, he does.
He didn't have a single punt return. Though. But just thought that was a little fun note. Who's your stud?
Stud, I'm gonna go with Joik Bell. I thought Joik Bell played, again, another very good game. Really, you could give it to Calvin Johnson if you wanted to. You could give it to Chris Durham because he showed up. But I'm gonna go with Joik Bell in this game. I thought Joik Bell, he came through at certain points when this team really needed him.
So, you know how many times in the NBA players don't win the MVP just because of voter fatigue?
Mm-hmm.
Basically by that I mean most of LeBron James's career. That's kind of what happened to Calvin Johnson in these last 8 weeks in our stud or dud. Calvin had a casual 10 receptions, 118 yards. It was probably the best statistical game. I think he probably had the best game, but I'm going to give it to Chris Durham, who came in off the street and had some big plays. Who's your dud?
Dud's going to be Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh ended up having 1 tackle. He had an awful penalty, and I just don't think he contributed anything for being a guy who we look at and we remember so fondly for being such a key cog in this defense. In this game, he didn't show up.
I thought it was interesting going through this game. I think we had a very different view of Matthew Stafford. I thought he played a good first half, but I think that this is a game I don't have an issue placing on Matthew Stafford. I think if it's not for his 2 big turnovers in the first half, they probably win. I think if he plays even remotely average in the second half, they might win. I don't think he was horrible as a whole. If I were to grade this game by Matthew Stafford, I'd probably give it a C-. But here's the thing. Maybe even a D+, but I wouldn't give it an F. I've seen many worse games, but he made the big plays negatively that cost them this game. And in the second half, if he came out in the second half and played like he did in the first half, I don't know that I would have given him the dud label. But they came out with a small lead, and he was able to do basically nothing to add to it. Only 2 field goals in the second half, and he played a major role in that. So I thought he had a pretty disappointing game against the Packers.
See, I don't have a problem with you giving it to Stafford. I chose not to give it to him just because I was more let down by Ndamukong Suh. I thought Stafford had, like you said, a really good first half. He just self-destructed in the second half, and I don't know if it was his fault or if it was more the conditions or everything around him. Now, this next game, the Arizona game, I want to do something a little bit different. And you might have Stafford as your dud in this game because I don't think he played very well.
Before we go into this game, and I do want to let you lead it, I need to share that I did not watch this whole game. I protested the last 8 minutes of this game. And I believe, Stroz, I don't know this. I believe I did this in real life. And I think I only watched about the first half. And understand, that's not something I do. The amount of times that I can watch a game and choose not to is very low. But I don't remember anything about this game. Nothing. And that's not happened. In most of these games, something comes to mind that oh, that play, or oh, that moment, or just something. And the only thing I could do watching this game was go, how did this happen? Where was this? When the hell did this happen? I think because it was so late in the season was over, and the most important note of all, it was so boring. Not angering. Actually that's a big key. I don't think I've ever turned off a game because I was angry. I think I turned this game off because I was bored to death. If you want to take a nap, go watch the Arizona Cardinals beat the Lions 38-10 in 2012. And Stroz, from here on out, you lead it. I don't have a ton to say, but I'm sure I'll have some things to chime in.
So first off, I just want to say Beanie Wells was in this game. And I totally forgot Beanie Wells was even a person until the opening drive of this game.
More memorable, Beanie Wells or the Rod Steffens howling.
I'm going to go Beanie Wells just because he played for Ohio State.
And Beanie was what we called him.
But I think you're right. Both these guys. These are the running backs for this team. Ryan Lindley is the quarterbacks. Like, this Arizona Cardinals team is atrocious, but they're better than your Detroit Lions.
Or how about Jeff King? I just want you to know these are all players who did things on offense.
So through the first quarter, which I thought the first quarter was amazing, through the first quarter, I was wondering if either one of these teams knows what offense is. Through the first 15 minutes, it was like self-destruction. It was 3 and outs. It was bad play after bad play. Nobody could get a first down. The first quarter, you said it was boring and you wanted to fall asleep, and I'm right there with you because
I didn't watch it. I was falling asleep.
I started to fall asleep in this game too, and it starts from the opening kickoff. This game was so damn boring, and the first 15 minutes were absolutely awful. I really wish I would have kept track of how many yards each team got through the first quarter. But the first quarter, nothing happened. And then before we get into the second quarter, I've got Stephon Logan sucks! Exclamation point! So Stephon Logan again has another very, very bad day in Arizona. There was the kick, the punt, where I have no idea what the hell he was thinking.
He didn't wave his man off. His man got blocked into him, and the ball hit him in the foot.
He ends up touching the ball, and next thing you know, there's a turnover, and this is what really sunk their battleship in the second quarter. It was turnovers, and it was a lot of penalties that hurt this team and gave Arizona basically a chance to get the lead. And really and truly, Detroit wasn't any good. I watched this game thinking, did Detroit just quit? Did they just quit? Was their season over right now in week 15? Did they just not show up for this game? No. Watching this game, Detroit showed up and they tried to play, but they kept shooting themselves in the foot, and it gets really, really bad here in the second quarter. Stephon Logan starts it off. Detroit ends up turning the ball over, and Beanie Wells is able to score a touchdown here. And it's just, this team can't get out of its own way, especially early in this game, and it just snowballs into the fourth quarter. So now we move on to the third quarter. All right. My assessment of this third quarter is, because there's not a whole lot that really happens here. Detroit is down 7-24 at one point.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're getting into the third quarter?
Yes.
I do have one major note at the half.
Yeah.
Because I looked this up to text friends. This happens on occasion when watching terrible games. At the half, the Arizona Cardinals had 24 points. They had 100 yards. If you were to look through the history of football, at the times a team had more than, I don't know, let's say 14 points through 100 yards, I bet it would be next to nothing. 100 yards is meaningless. And by the way, 2 of those touchdowns came from inside the 10-yard line. Mm-hmm. They didn't even have to do anything. It was
gift wrap. That second quarter
gift wrap's putting it kindly.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't even gift wrapped. They just handed them the gifts. There's no work involved.
So as this game unfolds, we head into the third quarter now. Watching this game, I'm frustrated because there are so many drops, and it's not just drops by your usual suspects. I mean, Tony Scheffler had a ton of drops in this game. Will Heller had a drop. For some reason, they thought throwing the ball to Stephon Logan was a good idea. I don't know. Chris Durham had 4 drops.
I knew things were bad when I heard the color guy say the Lions need to force feed Tony Scheffler.
I thought that was so funny. I was like, what the hell are we talking about?
By the way, I think this game highlighted just how bad the Lions offense was if Calvin Johnson wasn't open. I thought you could basically tell offensively, there was one question that had to be asked. Is Calvin Johnson open? If the answer was yes, then you had a good play. If the answer was no, then you had a bad play. And there was not a whole lot more to it.
And in my notes, I've got just throw the ball to Calvin Johnson. Whatever you got to do, just throw the ball to Calvin. Calvin had 7 drops in this game. He was targeted 17 times and only had 10 receptions. But I was like, you just need to force feed him more.
Keep in mind, he was guarded by Patrick Peterson. It was only his second year in the league, but Patrick Peterson was a Pro Bowler from day one.
Oh yeah, he was a stud for sure. So 3 interceptions leads to touchdowns, right? 28 of Arizona's 38 points comes off of turnovers, which is basically the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter just unravels in a hurry in this game.
So you said to me, I texted you to tell you I was falling asleep. You said to me the wheels came off in this one. I'm an analogy fan, so I was trying to think of a better way to put this. the wheels didn't come off, Stroz. This is like a car was being made in the factory, right? And it was at this stage where you have to put the wheels on, but the guy whose job it is to put the wheels on went and got a sledgehammer and started just beating out the fucking windows. The wheels were never on, so they can't come off. And I watched the start of the fourth quarter, and I was done. So I turned it off with 10 minutes left.
Did you get to, so you got to the interception return, huh?
Yeah, that was it.
There was a 102-yard interception return. That's how bad this game was. A guy ran it back from their own end zone 2 yards deep all the way down the other end of the field. That's how bad this was.
It was the best offensive play of the game.
Stafford struggled so much in this game, and I don't even think it was all his fault. I really don't, because he was getting murdered out there. That offensive line couldn't stop anybody. There was a point in this game.
So many penalties, so many holdings, so many false starts. Just atrocious.
There was a point in this game where Stafford gets hit. He just gets rocked. And he's standing outside of the huddle just trying to stretch out his hip because he took it on the side. And he just looks lame out there. Stafford was so beat up and so abused in this game. Honestly, it was really, really unfortunate. And the announcers even talk about it as this game's unfolding. He was only sacked twice, but he was hit at least 6 times, and I think they had a stat somewhere in the fourth quarter where he was hurried about 15. Like, Stafford was hung out to dry in this game, and he didn't play well.
I also just didn't think, I mean, it's hard to tell watching these broadcasts, but I think that, like I said, it was highlighted how bad this offense was when Calvin Johnson wasn't open, because Titus Young, gone. Nate Burleson, gone. Ryan Broyles, gone. Like, Chris Durham had 1 catch. Brian Rubisky, who I thought was a hockey player, had 1 catch. Will Heller, third string tight end, had 2 catches. Like, this offense was reliant on literal nobodies. Now, that's not an excuse. The Cardinals, I don't know anyone on their team either, and they scored 40 points. But I do think that's what was really highlighted in this game. This game was a bad team. This was a very bad team. This game made me wish that relegation existed, because nobody with Ryan Lindley, Beanie Wells, Rod Stevens-Howling, William Powell, Andre Roberts, Rob Hausler, and Jeff King playing meaningful snaps should be in the NFL. And nobody losing to that team by 28 has any business being in the NFL either.
You go through the who's who, and by who's who,
I just named their entire fucking roster.
I mean, look, Larry Fitzgerald played on this team, and Larry Fitzgerald, I don't know about you, there was a point when this game was unfolding, I was like, why are they throwing the ball more to Larry Fitzgerald? Like, out of everybody on this team, he's the most capable player you have, and I don't feel like they got him the ball enough. And then I'm like, oh yeah, wait, hold on, Ryan Lindley's your quarterback. He only threw it 21 times, and that's just because they didn't trust him.
The last time somebody threw for only 104 yards as a starting quarterback was 1942. Like, this is incredible. Stroz, I want to just, let's take Calvin Johnson out of the equation for a second and look at the passing yards in this game. If you take Calvin Johnson out of the equation, the leading receiver for either team was Michael Floyd with an outstanding 37 yards. Tony Scheffler close behind at 36. Then we dropped to Andre Roberts at 22, Larry Fitzgerald at 22. Like, dude, these are single catches. These shouldn't be, like, Calvin Johnson's longest reception was longer than almost anybody else's total yards.
Yeah. Look, just to put into perspective what's going on with this Detroit receiving core. After Calvin Johnson, in this game specifically, it's Tony Scheffler, who's your next reliable receiver, with 3 catches for 36 yards, and then it's Will Heller. You know, blazing speed, Will Heller, the tight end who catches everything that's thrown at him, Will Heller. And now, look, I'm being facetious here when I'm using all of these adjectives to describe Will Heller. Will Heller was just kind of a guy. He was a steady tight end. He wasn't anything
Will
special.
Heller was a salad without dressing.
Pretty much, yes. No, that's exactly it. He's just, honestly, he's lettuce with no croutons. Will Heller had 2 catches for 18 yards. Those are your next 2 big wide receivers in this game, or your 2 big receivers in this game after Calvin Johnson for this Detroit team. It's bad, man. This is not a good team. The setup with this team is horrible. And this game was so frustrating and so boring to watch. You know, we talked about how Arizona had 38 points in this game and Detroit had 10. And when this game started, I was like, how the hell does Arizona get the 38 points? I just couldn't figure it out because their offense was trash. Detroit's offense was trash.
If you asked me to predict the score after the first quarter, I'd have said 10-7. For the whole game.
Maybe. Because nobody could move the ball after the first quarter. And look.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns is a lot. Maybe 10-3 would have been fair.
10-3. That's what I would have won.
Field goals.
10-3. That's what I would have won with. And look, we talked a little bit about Ryan Lindley early in this podcast here, but Ryan Lindley's a quarterback who played 10 games in his NFL career, threw 3 touchdowns. In this game, he threw 14 completions. All right. He threw 140 his entire career. He threw 10% of his completions in this game. He was horrible, bro. He was horrible. And Detroit was even worse. That's all you need to know about this game.
If there was one game we've watched, the Eagles game is second place. The Eagles game from this season is second place. This is the number 1 game. Do not rewatch it. And if you did, I'm sorry. Stop it. I would say from here on out until 2014, I would advise you just listen to us and don't watch this crap.
I love how you had your breaking point. That's great. The
I'm not angry like you were, though.
You're not angry. It was boring. The Arizona Cardinal game broke you. Absolutely broke you. I was talking to a guy at work today, and I was like, he's like, what do you got going on later on tonight? And I was like, I gotta go record this podcast. We do a 2012 Lions rewatch. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, it's like getting kicked in your dick repeatedly.
I asked the question on Twitter, and I'm curious, how bad does a game have to be before you can stop watching it when it's for a rewatch podcast? Because I stopped. I gave up. I figured I had gotten to a point where there was nothing to be learned. I don't think I had seen the last of the game, and I don't need to. I will never have watched the end of this game, and I'm okay with that.
You didn't miss anything. You missed nothing. This was a nothing burger with cheese. All right, you want to go duds first or you want to go studs first?
Let's go duds first, but you first.
Okay, so duds. You've got your choice in this game. You've got the O-line, which was atrocious. Matt Stafford was hit 8 times, I counted. He was hurried more than 15, and he was sacked only twice. So the O-line was trash. You've got Matt Stafford, who threw 3 interceptions in this game. He wasn't very good, but I think that was more a product of this offensive line and his receivers not being able to hold on to balls. Or you've got Stephon Logan, because Stephon Logan is a train wreck, and he had a couple costly turnovers that led to points for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to go with the O-line because I'm just so blown away at how poorly they played in this game. It's completely frustrating watching them just act as turnstiles and windmills and allowing guys to just pile drive and jail sex your quarterback.
My dud is this game. I don't really have a whole lot to tell you. I just spent 15 minutes telling you why. And my stud is anybody who didn't watch it.
I like your stud.
I'm not going to waste my time. Trying to find a stud in this game, Stroz, I feel for you that you tried to find a real stud in this game, because
I did too. I put no one. I came up with nobody. I want to give it to Calvin Johnson so bad because he was the most capable wide receiver in this game, but I don't even feel like he deserved it because he was targeted 17 times and he only caught 10 of those. But still, this game was awful, dude. Absolutely awful.
Thank God you get to hear us laugh our way through this, because this is not how we felt watching it by ourselves.
Oh, it was horrible.
I got nothing, man. I probably should have the schedule in front of me. Do you have the schedule of the next final 2 games? It broke me in a very different way to breaking you.
It did. So this season's going to come to an end. We're going to have that historic moment where Calvin Johnson breaks Jerry Rice's record against the Falcons in Week 16. I was there. I'm pretty sure you were there for that game as well.
I have good personal memories about that game.
And then the Lions will drop their 8th in a row at home against Chicago. So it's Falcons in Chicago next week. They're both L's. The only good thing that we're looking forward to is Calvin Johnson breaking and making history.
Sound more upset. We're also looking forward to wrapping up the 2012 season.
This can't end soon enough.
What's next? We're looking forward to the 2013 season. We're only 2 weeks away because after next week, I'm assuming we're going to do our off-season episode, right?
Yes.
So we're closing in on the 2013 Lions season where we know things don't get better, but it's okay because we're going to have fun with it. Thanks for hanging out with us as we close in on the end of the